Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm here to give you another movie review. This is going to be the return of the movie series. I reviewed The Interview yesterday, so if you want to check out that video, go on my channel and go find it. It's not that hard to find if you look up my channel and you find my channel. Um, and today I'm going to review The Game Plan. And this movie came out on September 23rd, 2007. Um, and I'm just gonna say now that it has Dwayne Johnson in it. And if you don't know who Dwayne Johnson is, which I don't know how you do, he's this big movie star. He came onto the scene in around 2002, and the Hollywood scene started making movies. I think the first movie he made, and I don't know if this is true, was The Scorpion King. I think that was the first one he made, but I'm not exactly sure. And he's pretty much this big Hollywood star. He's been in a ton of movies, like this movie, The Scorpion King. He was recently in Pain and Gain. He was in trying to remember what else he was in. He was in The Tooth Fairy. Ugh. And what else was he in? Fast and Furious. He was in one of those. I think it was 6. He was in the most recent Fast and Furious. So I thought this was great. I really do like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's a decent actor, and I never really got to see his movies, so I am going to do just that. I am going to watch his movies. So I haven't exactly started watching the movie yet. It's on, I DVR'd it because it came on, it was on USA Network on, in December. So I recorded it to watch it later, and I haven't had a chance to watch it till now, so I'm just going to watch this movie, and as it goes to commercials, I'll give you my thoughts as it goes. So let's see how this movie goes, if it's good or bad. Okay, so the movie starts out, it goes to Dwayne Johnson's house. We don't really know what his name is in this movie yet we don't know what his name yet in the movie is. And this is a Disney movie, by the way. I forgot to mention that. And his dog, who we haven't found out his name yet, wakes him up. It shows this montage of him having a protein shake, working out, and we find out that he's a big football player. He plays for a team called the Rebels. I don't know if there's an actual team in football that's called the Rebels, because I don't really watch football. And he's gonna throw they're playing a game against someone, and he's gonna throw the football, and instead he plays as the quarterback. His number is 1. I think it's kind of strange that his number is 1. So instead he runs it in, gets the touchdown, Rebels win. And the commentators, I don't think these are the real sports commentators, these are just actors, are marking out about it. So then they celebrate, they have a party about it, and we see this guy Weber come up to this guy Cortman, and he tells him that there's these 2 ladies that say you have a nice smile, and this guy had just gotten done eating onion rings that he said probably had garlic in them. So he's like, yeah, go introduce yourself. And then he puts this breath spray in because he just had that garlic. So, and he even says you have a nice smile. So then when he goes to smile at this girl, his teeth are all green. It was actually pretty funny. So Weber tricked him, and then he's like, Weber. So then Dwayne's with his girlfriend, and we find out in this movie his name is Joe Kinman, and his like catchphrase is that he never says no. So then his girlfriend, I don't think I found out what her name was, is gonna go to Paris because I think she's like a model or something. So he gives her a present. I think her name's Chanel actually, but I'm not sure. So then one of the guys, I think his name's Sammy, is gonna go home to his wife and kids because his wife's calling him home, and Joe Kinman gives him like a hug, and he makes fun of him by saying, "Oh, I was gonna take your manhood card, but it looks like your wife already took that." And then the guy tells him, "Do you think this is living? This ain't living, Joe." And everyone just laughs at him because Joe doesn't have like a family or anything. And yeah, so then the only one that looked sorry about this was Cortman. But then they all leave after the party's over, and then Joe gives Spike a treat, and the reason why I'm saying this is because he has like football treats. He uses like a football, and he throws it like he's hiking it like a quarterback, and yeah. I forgot to mention too. In real life, Dwayne Johnson actually did play football, so I'm glad they actually did play that up in this movie. So then the next day, um, Joe is watching the ESPN. Um, and this guy's a big egomaniac too. I should mention he's very full of himself. He's selfish. Um, and he even like, when he even said he's like, "Oh, let's watch myself on TV." So then he watches himself and he talks about how there's not now his football is his life. He loves playing football, and there's nothing better than that. And then the guy Stewart, that's wanted it, trashes him. Says that he's never won like a like a King of the Ring or something like that. And then but he like fast forwards. It's like, oh yeah, what do you think of this? Because he doesn't want to hear the criticism. And then the guy says that you're 30 years old, you're not 20 anymore. Your time in football is passing you by. Pretty much trashes him. And then he gets a call from Larry, who's like, he works at the hotel. I think he's like, I don't know if he's a doorman. I think he's a doorman. And he says, there's a young lady named Peyton Kelly here that waiting to see you. And he's like, I don't know any Peyton Kelly. And he's like, is she cute? And she's like, oh yes, sir. And then he says, send her up. And then when he hangs up the phone, the guy's like, oh, he never says no. So then we the knock on the door comes. Well, somebody knocks on his door, and we see this little girl come up, and he's like, "Look, I'm not interested in buying any Girl Scout cookies. I got these rock hard abs. I'm a football player, so I'm not interested in that." But he has her punch his abs, and they're rock hard. So then he opens them, and then he closes the door, and then he opens them. Well, actually, at first he didn't see her. And then when he closed it, he was like, "Wait!" So then he opens the door again, and he's like, "You know what? I know what you want. You want a free autograph from me." So normally I would sell it to you, but I'll give it to you for free because I'm that kind of guy. Because he's very full of himself. And then Peyton sees Joe's dog, who we find out his name's Spike, and she pets him. And then he was like, didn't your mom tell you you're not supposed to go in a stranger's house? And then she's like, yeah. Then he's like, where is she? She's like, on a trip. And then he's like, well, where's your father? I bet he's looking for you. And then he's like, no, he's not looking for me. He's looking at me. So then he was like, what? Like, he just got like this weird look on his face. He was like shocked, which he probably was. So then they're sitting on the couch, and then he's like, no, this can't be true. We never had a kid. And then she shows him this letter that she wrote down that says that she's going and we find out her mom's name too is Sarah Kelly. And that she's going away for a while and needs Joe to watch her. And then he says, anybody couldn't witness this. This is no proof. She even mentioned too how he has a lot of pictures of himself. So then she shows him his birth certificate that he signed, and then he calls someone, and this woman comes up over to the house later that looks like that could be like Cruella de Vil. She looks like she could be like a villain. And then he tells her, you got to fix this. Now I saw this movie before, but I haven't seen it in so long, so I don't remember who this woman is. But I'm gonna find out when it comes back to the commercial. But I think the movie's actually having a pretty fast-paced start so far, so I'm actually liking it so far. Alright, so I just finished watching the whole movie. The reason why is because I was originally just gonna pause and let it build up and stuff. But then I let it pause and build up, and my mom and a friend wanted to watch it too, so I just figured I'd watch the whole thing and then review it afterwards. So that's why I'm here now. So what happens is he meets this person, Stella, and they're talking about, and they're pretty much explaining everything that's happened. We find out that the reason why Joe and her broke up, got the divorce all finalized and stuff, and he knows for a fact that he never had a kid because they got the divorce finalized before that even happened. And then she came over to pick up her things, and then Stella was like, when did this happen? It's like, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years ago. And then Stella asked her how old Peyton is, and she's like 8 years old. So you pretty much know what happened. So then what else happens? We find out that she's like, what kind of, because we find out that she's Sarah's in Africa, and she's like, what kind of mother just sends her child off to sends her child to a strange man's house. But then she's like, oh, that's not a strange man, it's my father. But she's like, what kind of mother just sends her away to her father's house and just goes to Africa? What kind of person is she? And then she's like, she's going to Africa to help with the children because they're thirsty. So then Joe comes up with an idea. She's like, Sarah had a sister, and Karen, where is she? Why can't she watch you? And she said, we find out she died. She doesn't say how, but she died. Then the reason why they're concerned about this too, because Stella's concerned about this because Karen, because Joe and Stella are working out a deal that after the Rebels who play for Boston, because I don't think they can say like the real names of the teams, like I think that it's supposed to be the New England Patriots, but it's actually the Boston Rebels, so I don't really know what's going on there. I think it's just because they can't say the Boston, because they could get sued if they use the New England Patriots name. So at first I thought it was like a college football thing, but then it was like the big league. So I didn't know what to think. So then he points out the fact that, but he's worried that that's going to concern that because they'll think that he abandoned his daughter that he knew he had. So then he talks about how they don't even look alike, and they really don't. So then they go outside, and Joe's like, thanks for the warning, Gary. And then, no, Larry. And then he's like, well, I said she was cute. So then they pull up the sports car, and Paige doesn't want to go in there because there's no back seat, and she's worried that the airbags are going to injure her if, they get in a car accident. So then he's like, oh, all right, put this so he has her put a football helmet on, and he has to get to practice, so you can't be late. There's a reason, because if you get late, they charge you, they fine you. And I'm just going to mention this, he is late, so he gets fined. So, then, Peyton asks, since they've never seen each other before, she wants to get to know Joe. So she asks Joe a bunch of questions, and she keeps calling him Joe because she doesn't really call him Dad because she really knows him. And the question she asks is, what's your favorite thing to do? And he says, play football. If there was one thing you could save in a fire, what would it be? And he says that, I was thinking he was going to say Spike, his dog, but he says like his designer shoes, which I thought was pretty brutal because Spike pretty much gets screwed out of that. And then one of the questions she asks is, what is the best thing that's ever happened to him?
And he doesn't answer. He says, why didn't Sally just come here herself and just drop you off? This doesn't seem like her. And he's like, oh, I know why. She probably gained weight, so she didn't want to show that he gained weight. I thought it was weird that he said that. And to change the subject, when she had asked this, she gives him she offers him the cookies. Like, she knows something's up. Like, she keeps changing the subject every time he keeps asking about it. So then, he eats the cookies, and he's like going through like an allergic reaction to it. He starts to lisp. He has a lisp. So then we find out that she's like, "What did you put in those cookies?" Joe's like, "What did you put in those cookies?" And Peyton says, well, one of the items was cinnamon, and we find out Joe's allergic to cinnamon. And then Peyton says, "I'm allergic to nuts." Remember that, because that's going to be important. So Joe's trying to tell him the plays, but they're making fun of him. They say suffer when succotash. And they find out he has a kid, and they were like, I don't know Joe had a kid. And one of the other football player, I think it was Weber, said, I don't think Joe knew Joe had a kid. So then Joe makes her sit on the bench and says, stay here. And then she makes fun of him by saying, yes, sir, with a lisp. And then Joe tries to make like a Rebels commercial, but he's lisping because of the allergic reaction. And then actually Joe's in the ice bath, and Cooper's like, hey, Weber, why don't we mess with Joe by putting ice in his bath? And Weber's like, Joe already has ice in his bath. And he's like, oh, why don't we put colder ice in his bag? This guy's an idiot, pretty much. And then Santos congratulates him about the child. He says, you should be happy that you have one. And then he says, well, at least you had yours came. You knew yours was coming. I didn't know mine was coming. And then Santos says, is that how you say his name? Sanders says, well, at least she's here now, so deal with it. So then, and Peyton has to wear a blindfold because she's in the men's locker room, so, you know. And Cooper asks how she got her name, if it's from Peyton Manning, since he's a football player. And she's like, no, I got it from Peyton. It's like a medicinist or something. I don't really know. Medicine specialist. I don't know I don't remember what his full name was. But he thinks that's stupid. And then Peyton's like, stupid is a mean word. My mom says stupid is a mean word. And then Cooper's like, no, it isn't. And they have like this argument, yes, it is. And Joe breaks it up. And then Peyton just walks closer to somebody's underpants. Because I guess she saw them. And Monroe says, don't touch the pants. And then she gets Dan, and Sanders says that he has to wear those underpants because they win every game if he wears them. It's like kind of like a lug superstition thing. Then Joe sees himself on TV, and since he's selfish, this big egomaniac, you know, he acts all surprised. So then Joe, we find out that Joe has no sweets in the house because he has to keep up, obviously, with the diet because he's a football player, and his dad said, and he tells her, and Peyton obviously wants sweets because kids love sweets, and Joe tells him that his dad never let him have sweets. So Peyton was like, is that why you never smile? You know, to make fun of him. So then they have spaghetti, and Peyton has and it's like huge, it's like a huge amount. I could probably eat that, but Peyton can't because she's just a little girl, but obviously Joe can because he's an athlete and he's big. So then Joe's like, you're gonna eat aren't you gonna eat your dinner? And he's like, this is as tall as a mountain. So then Joe gets something on his face, and Peyton goes like that to get it off, and he gets like a little bit of nose and he's like, I'm gonna go do some dishes because he feels like it's awkward. So you finish eating, okay? So then she just gives it to the dog. It's a Spike, the dog. I thought that was funny. and he doesn't know this, obviously. And then she finds the remote that controls Joe's house, and she hits romance, and then like fire, like the obviously the romance version goes on. So then Joe has her go to sleep, and then Peyton's like, "Aren't you gonna tell me a bedtime story?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you a bedtime story." He mixes up. I guess he doesn't. He's not good at his kid stories because he mixes them all up. He says, "I He talked about how the big bad wolf blew down Grandma's house, ate Goldilocks when there was porridge in there." Hello? Nothing. Nothing. Okay. Okay. What? I could go back there. What? Okay. 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 All right. So then what was I? Oh, so then Peyton tells a real story. She tells about this story about this princess that had all these dresses that were different colors, and a certain color gave her certain powers. But this was all just a trick to get Joe to go to bed, so that way she could steal his bed. And then he wakes up and starts cracking, and she was like, "My mom doesn't like it when you crack stuff." And he's like, "Well, your mom didn't have to sleep on a sofa last night." And earlier too, Sarah had called her. Well, we're supposed to think it's Sarah, and she's like, "I want to see you," because she's going off to Africa. At least I think so. And she's asking how everything's going, just kind of getting the update. And we find out there was supposed to be. She asked about how the ballet is, so I thought that was weird. So then Joe slips and falls and trips on a doll, and Joe says she's gonna get Peyton an iPod because she was listening to ballet and he doesn't like it, and he finds her bedazzler. Alright, and then he makes his protein shake, and it just is gross. She doesn't like it, obviously, and it doesn't look that appealing, not gonna lie, but it does help him get his protein going. So then the protein Peyton like dances around and the protein shake gets everywhere. So she shows her this playbook, and there's like certain spots that he can't go, and now he says that she's banned from the kitchen. So then what happens next? They pick out a nanny, and they pick out a hot nanny named Cindy at first, and that's gonna be the nanny. And Joe goes to his restaurant. It's like his grand opening, and I don't think it's his restaurant, but that's like a place that he probably goes. And he's like, "What are you gonna do about Peyton?" And Cooper's like, "What are you gonna do with Peyton?" He's like, "I don't know." So then he takes Peyton there with him, and he's playing with Monroe, that big 7 foot tall guy that's supposed to be intimidating. He's playing like dress up with him, like with dolls, not like actually there. So then Joe leaves, and then he's jamming out to "I Got Sunshine" in the car, and well, My Girl, and he realizes if he left Peyton there. So then Peyton tries to find him, and we find out it was a guy, and she thinks it's him, but it was really a guy trying to get information. He takes a picture of her. Joe gets there, and the guy's like, "Hey Joe, you forget something?" So he decks this guy, and it shows the picture of it. And he talks about that this is going to be a bad thing. It's going to be bad publicity. Stella tells him about this, which obviously it's going to be. So they're going to clear this up with the press and try to make to bullshit that he's like a good father. They even get him like a station wagon. And Peyton's not going to go along with this unless they get rid of the nanny. And at first they don't do that, but then when she mentions that Joe might have given her some margaritas, a margarita. They go with it, so they fire the nanny. It was funny because they like drive by and Stella's like you fight, and Stella's kind of like that villain sort of, not a complete villain, but she just wants what's best for Joe, and it comes off kind of villainish in this movie. So Joe tried to make this thing how people make mistakes, and how she's gonna be going to bed a lot earlier, but they don't buy it. But Peyton says that my father's just became a father not that long ago, and he's trying to get used to it, and I know that we can work through this together. So then everyone buys it, and now Joe owes her, so now she's gonna take ballet lessons. But they were supposed to have ballet lessons a while ago, auditions and all of that. But then I guess the instructor, I actually don't remember her name. Alright, hold on. I can't find her name anywhere. Oh, I can't say it, I can't pronounce it at all. It's Monic. Since she sees that she's all good, she's gonna see how she's gonna do. So I guess she's gonna do fine, and she's gonna be on all the classes. But the parents also have to contribute something, so into this program. And Joe says maybe we can work something out. And she doesn't know who Joe is. And he's all shocked about this because this is the first time I guess someone hasn't known who they were. So then what happens next? Trying to remember. They I think are at the Joe, Cooper, Sanders, and Weber are all watching the basketball game, and there's like a second left. They're about to make the final shot, and then the show changes to like horses. And Joe's kind of acting weird around his friends too. He does the thing with the lip to clean off some dip that Joe had on him. Well, that Sanders had on him, and they try to pull a prank on Weber. Cooper tries to pull a prank where he shakes like his beer or soda, whatever he had, because I couldn't really get the good look at what they were drinking. And Sanders switches the cans and it explodes. So then, but it switches to horses at the last second, and they missed it. So everyone just leaves, and Joe gets pissed at Peyton, makes her take a bath and go to bed. And then Peyton fills the bath up with bubble soap, and to get back at him, to fill the house. And when Joe's watching himself on TV, the same thing he was watching, all through that I mentioned earlier, and he sees Spike's covered with bubbles. So then he thinks Peyton's drowning in there, so he tries to find her. He gets covered in bubbles, and then he's like, I'm not going to get mad, we're just going to have a calm discussion. So then he sees that he bedazzled his ball. Like, she bedazzled his MVP football. So I thought that was funny. I don't remember. And then the next thing that happens is I believe they win another game. That was cool. And the guy that owns Samuel Blake Jr., who meets up with Stella and Peyton, and the bullshitting about how great it is and stuff like that. So then, what else happens? Peyton didn't go to ballet that day because apparently practice ran late. So Joe, so she tells Joe that she knows what kind of father he is, that he's gonna put his life, himself over his daughter. He doesn't care about anybody else but himself, and he's like, well, he has a bunch of people depending on me to win the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna call it the Super Bowl because that's pretty much what it is. And then she says, you have a daughter that's dependent on you to take care of her and to care for her. So then she says that Joe's going to make a special contribution to the ballet place. He's going to be the tree. He's going to be in the ballet show, and he doesn't want to go for this because he actually doesn't think ballet is a real sport. Um, but then he finds out that it's more difficult of a sport because they go through this montage about how he has to go through everything. Because he's gonna be like the tree in there. At one point, he grabs, um, Monique or whatever her name is, the ballet teacher. I'm just gonna call her, and drops her right on her face. It was pretty funny. And he's all like exhausted afterwards. He realizes that I think he realizes that ballet is more tougher. Um, then they talk about how they're gonna win like the Super Bowl, and then they show this montage of the football play, Joe's of the Rebels exercising, and um, Peyton practicing ballet, and then they do all the same stuff because if you do take ballet, it does help you with balance and stuff. So, um, at one point, Joe, they're ramming like the little fin that you would ram when the football players, I forget what it's called, and Peyton does it, and they actually pull the fin back. I thought that was cool. Um, they're all like having a fun time. What else happens? Joe, they have like a squirt gun fight in the weight room, and Joe even earlier was pissed that he's losing everything, all this stuff because he's been sleeping in the couch, so he gives Peyton her own room. I know that's kind of early to mention that, and Sarah doesn't know, I guess, that Peyton's not with Joe because she sends a picture of her just at the ballet class. So I thought that was cool. So I thought that was funny. So then Peyton, what else? Peyton, um, what else happens? What else did they do? That's about it, I think. They just do this montage about how Joe's starting to become more fatherly. And then Joe even mentions how he is new at this thing. He is new at becoming a parent. So it's going to take time for him to adjust compared to like football plays. And then his girlfriend from earlier that I talked about, and I never got her name, but now I have it. Let me actually, Taina, I think her name is. Yeah. And she comes home, but he doesn't want her to know that she has a daughter, but Peyton's there, so they don't really see eye to eye. So they try to go out to like a restaurant, but when Peyton was gonna stay at the neighbor's house, but so they couldn't, she lied to say that she was allergic to the dog, which we know isn't true because she isn't allergic to Spike. So then they get into an argument, talk about how the reason why Sarah said that you guys split up is because you're selfish. You only think of yourself. You're self-centered. You don't care about anybody but yourself. And he talks about how she's just like her. She gets under people's skin just like her. All this stuff, just trashing her. And he's like, I should have been here. I want to go home. She says she wants her mom because he's like, what do you want from me? So then Spike just goes in there and comforts her, and then he's like, traitor. So then he looks to Elvis, and he's like, what do I do? So then he plays her like a song, and he talks about how she has like all the good qualities of a mom, and she said that he says he'll do anything to keep Peyton happy. So he takes her to like a little girl, like a makeup kind of place, and he's having trouble keeping control of things, and she's still calling him Joe because one of the little kids mentioned, you call your dad Joe. So he calls the ballet teacher, and she helps out. She talks about how mom is more smarter and nicer than dads are, and then he says, why are you and he says, do you also need the dad to build courage for the child? So then he's like, I'm glad, and she talks about how her dad got her into ballet, and he's like, I'm glad ballet brought us together. So then we see that now they're at the ballet event. I might be missing some stuff. And Peyton gets nervous, and Joe has to wear like this little tiny like tree thing, and he's like a big dude, so He shows that he looks ridiculous, but he's not gonna let that slide. And she talks about how she has pre-game or pre-concert jitters, but everything's gonna be fine because my daughter's not a quitter. She doesn't say no. So then they have this ballet event. It was cool. You can just check it out for yourself. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. And Joe's football teammates were out there making fun of him. And then it comes back, and then you act like you missed something because they win the game to get the playoffs to get him into the championship. So you act like you missed something. So then Stella comes up and says that after like the Super Bowl, he's gonna look into the camera and says, "I'm going to Fanny's Burgers, and it's gonna get him this big payday." And then they have lunch with the ballet teacher. We find out that and Joe says, well, they talk about how Peyton could go to this game, but unfortunately Peyton's gonna be gone when the game happens, and then they're trying to work something out so she could stay. But then she lets it slip. She says, I have to get back there before she does. And he's like, what are you talking about? We find out she was actually supposed to go to a ballet-like vacation kind of thing. And she says that I just snuck away and went with you. And he was like, do you realize what you've done? Did you think about my career? How this was going to affect me? Because he's like, this is all over magazines. It's hurt his career, kind of. So then she eats dessert. And there's nuts in there. So remember I said remember that? She starts coughing. At first, Joe thinks she's faking it to get sympathy, which I wouldn't think so, too. So then they have to go to the hospital. And Joe doesn't, instead of getting in the car, panics, just rushes to the hospital. And then the nurse tells him everything's going to be okay, but we shouldn't be careful next time. And then we see Sarah, the person that's been calling Peyton. And he's like, you're lucky I don't call the police. I come home and see Peyton's face in the front of the magazine. And all he can say is Karen. Because that's actually who it was. And he's like, all you can say is Karen. And then he was like, I thought you were dead. And she's like, oh, I'm not dead. This is like, is Sarah still in Africa? So then we find out that Sarah died in a car accident 6 months ago. Everything's all... It was actually kind of a sad scene. So then Peyton tells her that the ballet people think that she went with her to Africa. And she, like, gave the taxi driver the directions to get to here. So she tells him they're going to go home after this, and Joe's like, what? So he's not happy about this. So then all of Joe's football teammates give Peyton like a bunch of stuffed animals and balloons and stuff like that. So then Joe wants to keep Peyton. He says he's missed too much of her life. She said that she needs her father, and she doesn't want to miss any moment of her life. But Karen's more worried about her well-being because you've never taken care of a kid, and she almost died because of you. And you don't know anything about her. So Joe then says, I'm going to fight for this. I'll take this to court. And then she's like, do you really want to put her through that? So they kind of have a debate about that. So then Peyton like wakes up and overhears that Stella is talking to somebody on the phone. I don't know, well, who it is. About how this is going to be such a distraction. It's going to really hurt his career if he keeps Peyton. So knowing this, I think Peyton thought of her father first and said, you know what, I just want to go home right now. So she does. And then the cab driver even said, you know who lives here? And she even hugged Larry. You know who lives here? Joe Kidman. So I thought that was cool. And then Spike goes in there and pulls out a bag because she forgot it. I guess he could smell the scent. And we see all the pictures. Joe's wedding picture. The pictures of Sarah and Peyton together. And we see this letter. She talked about how telling Joe that Sarah wrote to him, telling him about how Joe has a kid, how they have a kid now, and she said that she didn't want to tell him because she's worried that it would be a distraction to your career, but she's so much like you. She has the strength and desire. So then he begins to cry. He tries to call her on the phone, and he watches one of his old games, because in those games, instead of throwing it to the open guy, he would always just run the ball in. So then he's like, oh, stupid. So then he tries to call her again, and it's kind of awkward. And Sanders is there, and he asks what he should do. And he says, well, you should show her that you love her, and nothing's ever going to change that. And he thanks him for putting up with all the crap that he dumped on him, and he's like, that's what friends are for. And then he goes to the big game, and one of the interviewers asks him, now that your daughter's gone, is that distraction going to be gone? And then he says, she's not a distraction. She's my daughter, and I love her regardless, and I'd rather have my career be over now and have her here with me. So they see this, and then the game starts. Joe's off his game, obviously, because he's so distracted about losing Peyton. And Stella's having some Bob's Burgers that taste like crap, and it gives her gas because Peyton had talked about constantly that Fanny's Burgers give them gas. So then Joe gets injured. One of the guys tackles him, and then he gets in his face and talks trash to him. So then he figures instead of going back in, the best thing for the team would be to send the other quarterback in, who hasn't played all season because Joe had been such an egomaniac. So then Peyton shows up and says that, and she can pretty much stay with Joe because she needs her. And Karen says she needs her father, and Karen pretty much has this, and Peyton has the same speech that Joe had with her about the ballet thing, how her father's not a quitter. Joe Kinman never says no, which was one of his catchphrases. So then he goes back out there. They win the game. He throws it to Sanders, and then instead of saying that he's going to Bob's Burgers at the end, he says he's going to take his daughter home. And then it was a big celebratory moment. It was over, and that was it. That was the end of the movie. Overall, I actually thought it was a great movie. Everyone actually I've heard trashes this movie. It says this is one of Dwayne Johnson's worst movies, one of his worst movies. But I actually liked it. It was emotional. It catches your attention. It's definitely worth checking out. If you really want to see this movie. It definitely is. So while I'm here, I'm gonna quickly go through who played the cast. I already told you Dwayne Johnson plays Joan Kimmin. Madison Pennis, I think that's how you said it, plays Peyton Kelly. Rosalind I don't know how to. Sanchez plays the ballet teacher. Curie Sedgwick plays Stella Peck. I've seen her before. She looks like Cruella de Vil in this movie. Morris Morris Chestnut plays Travis Sanders, who's is the one that has the wife and kid. Paige Turco plays Karen Kelly. That's Sarah's sister. Hayes MacArthur plays Kyle Cooper. He's the dumbass. He actually talked bad about one of the guys because he kept saying that stupid. He always kept saying stupid, and when one of the guys says stupid in the game, he says stupid's a bad word. I thought it was funny. So then Brian G. White plays Jamal Weber. Jamal Duff plays Clarence Monroe. Lawrence Storm plays Nanny Cindy. Gordon Clapp plays Coach Mark Maddox. He was the coach, of the Rebels. Kate Nuda plays Tiana. I think that's Tatana. I don't know. Robert Torty, I think that's how you say it, plays Samuel Blake Jr. He's the owner of Fane's Burgers. Marv Albert and Boomer Ezra portray themselves as the commentary in the game. And Steve Levy plays himself as one of the game's post-cover. Oh, he's the guy on SportsCenter, and Stuart Scott also plays himself as the SportsCenter, talking about Joe Kimmin. So that was it. That's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, I really enjoyed this movie, and I will be back throughout the week to give you more movie reviews. If you want to know what the next one's gonna be, go on my one of my videos. Well, I'm just gonna tell you the next one's gonna be Doctor Giggles. So that's pretty much it, guys. See